I want to talk about Jeb Bush a little bit in terms of global warming, and I want to get into these debates thing because I do think it's fascinating to try and even guess like how insane things are going to be 6 months from now. But I also was interviewed by or had a conversation, I should say, with a reporter from Politico, and about Martin O'Malley, who.
Yeah,
I guess Martin O'Malley is just, sort of wondering like why the progressive base is not as excited
he's going to
about him.
declare soon, I
Huh?
think.
What's
He's
that?
going to declare in about a week, I think.
Yeah.
He's running.
And I think, there's some sense in the O'Malley campaign, like why isn't the base as excited about us as they are about
You know
Elizabeth
what's
Warren?
funny?
What?
Is I'm 100% positive I know who that political reporter is you talked to.
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah, to be honest with you, off the top of my head, I couldn't in a million years tell you his name. But at one point we got disconnected and I called back and the number on the phone and he must have been calling from I don't know where it was, but they answered the phone and I didn't recognize. And I realized because I just assumed it was his cell phone or something. And I realized I don't know the guy's name. And so I said, just wrong number. And I just waited for him to call me back.
Okay.
But so I don't know if we should talk about that. Maybe we'll save that for next week. Because
For O'Malley? Why don't we talk about O'Malley next week because we'll be right before his announcement.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So let's talk about this.
I want to talk about that though because it is a fascinating. Just looking at his record because he's certainly moved somewhat to the left and wasn't that far to the left in the past. So
and I think to me it has to do with a sort of a fundamental, sort of populist perspective that I will say this reporter I think clearly does not. It is interesting because I don't deal with people like this on any type of even semi-regular basis. And the myopia is fascinating to me.
So let's discuss that. But we need to look into the mind of your average Republican voter if we dare. We
got 5 minutes. Let's talk about this. So Jeb Bush, who, if I'm not mistaken, the big sort of upshot of Jeb Bush was at least he acknowledges that climate change is man-made and he's not virulently anti-Latino. And he seems to have tried to downplay his immigration position. But he has just done, as far as I can tell, like a full-on 360 now or a 180 on climate change.
Well, what he's done is, and this seems to be like the conservative version of middle ground, of being a moderate, which is, tells you all you need to know in and of itself. But that is to say, yes, the Earth is warming, but we don't have enough studies yet to know that it's because of humans. So it may just be like it's happened in the past, man. I mean, there were ice ages and crazy stuff happens, and where's your baseline? And they cherry pick data depending upon what date they start measuring, and that kind of thing, and say, yeah, who knows, man? It's it's not necessarily humans, and sure we may contribute to this, but we don't know. As if 97% of peer-reviewed studies haven't exactly said that. And my guess is the other 3% of peer-reviewed studies, if you looked far enough, you'd find some Exxon money behind them. Or Coke money, or both. So I mean, that's the thing is that he actually used the term arrogant, and the only thing arrogant is for him to think that with his little pea brain, he knows more than 97% of the scientists out there who have said this is directly attributable to human behavior and carbon in the atmosphere.
All right. Well, let's also be frank about this. Jeb Bush does not believe what he's saying.
Of course not.
So this is just posturing. This is really more a reflection of. What we can garner from this is a couple of things. One is, of course, that the people that he has to appeal to are morons and insane. But I will also add, this is where you can parse out quite easily, it seems to me, the dog whistle to the fundamentalist base. He says two things that is being reported. They said. One, he says, for the people to say the science is decided on this is really arrogant, to be honest with you. It's this intellectual arrogance that now you can't have a conversation about it even. Okay, there's two things going on here.
I also don't converse with people about gravity.
What? Right. Well, that would be very intellectually arrogant of you.
Yes,
There's two things going on here. One is it's the elite eggheads, blah, 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 but
nattering nabobs of negativism and all that crap.
But there's something else going on here, because to say it's really arrogant there's another way where this goes. And that is, it is arrogant. It is profane for humans to think that they have the ability to impact what is God's realm. I mean, this appeals to both sort of the cultural conservatives who have a chip on their shoulder because those liberals think they're so much smarter than us, and it appeals to the fundamentalists. I mean, this is very tested language. And so he's trying to hit both those sort of quadrants, which, to be honest, they overlap quite a bit. But both those quadrants.
But what leads them? You're exactly right. They overlap, as many groups do. And you've also got your anti-government types, and you've also got your business conservatives that don't want to be regulated. The point is that all these different groups, in the end, are happy with what he says. Many of them overlap. They don't all fully overlap. But he reaches all of them in saying that. In the end, I think, to me, still, he can use all the pull-tested language he wants. He just is another reason, when we've seen many of them recently, it just shows why he's such a terrible candidate, which I had no idea. I mean, I think the name Bush and a bunch of money was enough to get it done in Florida, quite frankly. But on the national stage, he's terrible. I mean, he doesn't just lack charisma. I mean, it's interesting because, there's a theory that it was easy for George W. Bush to stay on message because he was so dumb. You know what I mean? So he didn't have other, complicated thoughts passing through his mind. But, Bill Clinton's very smart, and he was able to stay on message in an amazing way. Jeb Bush is all over the place. I don't know. I've been so unimpressed by him. I think he's out of it before it even starts.
Interesting. I tend to agree with you. He's rusty, and I've been saying this for a long time. But it's not like the narrative is that there's some huge deep bench here because there's so many people. But the reality is, I think this bench might be quite wide, but I don't know how deep it is per se. There's a lot of people on that bench. It goes way down the dugout, but none of these people are particularly good, it seems to me.